Alright, here we are. We're going on the Silent Sea episode 2 breakdown. I don't know if I'm going to do this in 2 videos or 1. We'll see how fast I can get through this. I don't like making super long videos, so let's jump right into it. So we begin the second episode with a flashback. We see Dr. Son. She's at her house, wherever, watching an old video on her laptop, thinking about her sister. She has a flashback to her sister talking about the Silent Sea, which are the craters on the moon, which are named Mare Tranquillus. So from this, she infers that the password to her sister's computer, top secret files, is Mare Tranquillus, which it is, which I find a little odd because her sister died while on a top secret base on the moon doing some undercover stuff, and she's been dead for a while, and the fact that her files are still accessible seems a little weird, but whatever. We need the story to progress. So then we pick up right where the last episode left off, the first episode. The crew make it into the base. They all replenish oxygen, and they act like nothing happened. You know, the guy left behind. There's no issue to try and go back and save him. They just say, whatever, let's move on. So immediately they find a dead body that looks diseased. It looks pretty obvious that it wasn't from like natural causes. Which this is the first really odd issue I have with the episode. I mean, surprise, surprise, they're like 5 seconds in and already have an issue. They state that it's a mercenary, therefore they can't be identified. I don't understand why or how. They don't explain that. They don't even check for an ID. They literally just say, well, it looks like a mercenary, therefore we can't ID them. So I guess mercenaries in this universe never have ID. Once again, odd. I don't know how you would ever traverse the base without any sort of ID, but whatever. Okay. So then Son says that they should do an autopsy. So this is par for her course, always constantly telling the captain what should or shouldn't be done, which I thought was kind of odd because this should have came from the doctor, the actual medical doctor. I'm going to say it comes from Dr. Son, who she's like a microbiologist. I don't remember. I said in the first episode. I don't remember the fuck she is. She's not a medical doctor. But anyways, so she says it, and the captain's like, no, we're not doing that. That's, you know, not while we're here, which seems kind of odd. Also, I feel like the captain is hiding more than he knows. He's not really talking about it. Because then we get in the very next part of the show where they talk about radiation, and one of the pilots says, there's no radiation. And the captain blatantly says, well, your instruments are wrong. And then the other guy also says, well, I'm not picking up radiation either. And that just seems to make the captain annoyed. And so they move on. So next they make it to the control room. They turn the base's power on. The crew discovers that there's literally nothing wrong with the base. The life support's good. And there's no radiation. So they're kind of wondering, like, why is everything shut down? But who knows? So then they believe that it's possible they can take their helmets off. And so Dr. Son just decides to take her off. And everyone tells her, no, no, no. They protest the idea, which is smart because odds are, and we'll find out later, sorry, spoiler alert, that it's airborne, which seems very obvious from the first body they found. But she takes her helmet off. It'll be fine. Then she instructs the captain, once again, what they should be doing. Obviously, he gets annoyed, but I wish he just kind of put her in her place. And then everyone decides to take their helmets off. They're like, well, I mean, she didn't die immediately, so let's all take our helmets off. So I guess they need the story to progress somehow, and instead of finding any sort of unique and intelligent way to progress the story, they decide, let's make everyone take their helmets off because we don't know how to do this intelligently. So then they find out that the areas that you need clearance to go just so happen to be the same areas that are contaminated. So, I mean, surprise, surprise. So they decided to split up into 2 or 3 groups to go find a sample, different parts of the base. This is another one of my big issues is the funny guy that they have. He's a funny guy. He just isn't funny. He literally just keeps saying things that are really offensive and odd, and they don't come off as funny. Like, I was thinking of like Ryan Reynolds. A lot of times in his movies and stuff, he'll say things that are like not funny or kind of offensive, but they'll still have some humor value to them. Where this guy says stuff and it's not even funny at all. It's not humorous. It's not like he's trying to lighten the mood, or maybe that's what he's trying to do, but just doesn't come off that way. He just comes off as kind of an asshole. So then they walk A bit further in this part, I thought was really weird. So they see a few scribbles on some pipes overhead, like two little like diagrams drawn or something. And the guy that sees them freaks out. Like at first when he's freaking out, I thought, oh shit, they finally have seen an alien. They always saw a dead body, and no one batted an eye seeing that weird diseased dead body. It was like, it's just that guy. He's just a mercenary. I don't know who that is. But you see some scribblings on the pipes, and he legit freaks out. And I'm just like, and that's it. It goes nowhere. Nothing happens. There's no weird sounds. There's just these two little diagrams drawn that mean nothing, and he acts like it's the end of the world. So then that scene's over. They don't really come back to that. I'm sure they'll address it in the future. And the reason he had to freak out is so the viewer really paid attention instead of making it intelligent, where they could kind of it in the background. So if you were paying attention, you would know some and pick it up later. No, instead they're like, hey, make sure you remember these symbols because we're going to show them later in the show. We want you to be able to, you know, draw back to them, you know, because you're an idiot. Okay, so then they come to a door. This I thought, once again, just some weird stuff. They come to a door that won't open. And two of the pilots are pulling at everything that, oh, they can't open, they can't open. And then they finally start to kind of budget about this far, and then the doors open. So I guess nothing. So I guess that's how doors work in this universe. Once you get them open like an inch or two, then it's really easy. But that first inch, whew, that's hard. A bunch of bodies fall out, like 30 of them. They all have the same diseased looks as the first guy they found, the mercenary. So once again, I'd be like, hey, probably should have our helmets on, because none of these people have their helmets on, and they all look like they are diseased. But they'll be fine. So they're just gonna, you know, move on. So then, then as they're going, they think they found someone else in the station. They hear something, and the captain just says that he's gonna go investigate himself. No one come with me, you know, this could be a hostile. We have no idea. Everyone's supposed to be dead. Space station's been shut down. There's no life support. So they hear something. He's like, I'll just take care of it myself. You guys keep going. So it's like, all right, whatever. So then as they're going, one of the pilots, the funny guy, not so funny guy, so I'm going to start calling him, corners Dr. Son and tells her that she should go to the infirmary to figure out what's actually going on, and he's going to cover for her. Honestly, the best thing that's happened in the first entire 2 episodes of the show actually makes sense. So I was like, cool, this, finally, the first logical thing that anyone has done. So then we see a different pilot going to grab a sample, but it's empty, and he has to crawl over a dead body, and he knocks it, and we see this like gas coming out of its mouth, and he inhales it. So surprise, surprise, they should have kept their helmets on. But once again, they need to progress the story somehow, and they can't do it with any sort of intelligence, so they just have them take their helmets off because, surprise, surprise, they have to inhale whatever the hell it is. Then the not funny guy makes it into a secured room with no power and discovers that all the samples are empty. And once again, this is another one of the weirdest scenes in the show. So he has his flashlight on a table, and I think he's grabbing a sample that looks like it's full, and his flashlight falls on the floor. And it does one of these weird impossible rolls where, like, you know, it should have fallen and rolled a little bit, but it falls and rolls so far under the table that he legitimately is on the ground, has his arm stuck completely in as far as going up to his shoulder, and he can just barely touch with the tips of his fingers. So this fucker rolled like 3 feet. I mean, I don't know what the length of his arm is, but that's a long distance to roll. So he's trying to grab it, just barely touch the tip of his fingers, and then it like kind of looks like it almost gets pushed, but more looks like it's sucked away, like something grabbed it, and he freaks out, pulls his arm out. He's freaking out, going, oh my gosh, what was that? What's going on? And he takes a deep breath and decides, stick my arm back in there. So he lays back down. Now, although he already at full extension could just barely touch with the tip of his finger, he knows for a fact there's moved further in, he decides to stick his arm in again. And I'm like, why? You thought that something could have grabbed it, which is creepy enough. And I said, fuck that flashlight, it's gone, I'm getting the hell out of here. But so he's like, nah, I'll stick my arm back in there again. Although I know for a fact I pushed it further away, so there's no way I can grab it, but he does. And of course the scene ends there. Then it just basically, the episode ends. It shows the guy that inhaled the pathogen, and he's like kind of lagging behind the group. You see his face all kind of sweating, wheezing. We see this weird like thing in the side of his neck, kind of like inside his skin, so we know he's infected. That's it. That's the end of the second episode. I'm going to go through my thoughts real quick, as we're just under 10 minutes, try and keep this at 15 at the most. So thought one is slightly better than first episode, I guess. It wasn't quite as stupid. I saw a lot of issues. San, she's so preachy, annoying. She acts like she knows everything, which is just abrasive as a character. The captain keeps acting extremely suspicious. He's making stupid choices, as in going off by himself, having them take their helmets off. It's just, I don't really get it. It seemed very obvious how they wanted to get the crew infected from the very beginning. I mean, just the whole helmet thing was so dumb. That just really makes my brain hurt. Let's see. I thought it was a dumb way to move the plot along. Oh, and basically the way to fix it, and once again, I'm just doing the most lowbrow, easiest fixes I can. The ways that you almost wouldn't even have. You could do it in post-edit. All they could have had is when they get on the base, they could have said, hey, all life support's good, there's no radiation, there looks good that we could take our helmets off, but we shouldn't. We should keep them on. And the captain could literally said, well, we have limited O2 canisters for our suits, and once we get the sample and we leave the base to go rendezvous with another ship, or if the life support fails, we're going to need those canisters. So we don't really have an option. We have to take our helmets off because we got to save what limited amount of canisters we have for the eventuality that we need them, or if something fails. Boom, right there. Problem solved. But instead they just say, nah, it'll be fine. Just take your helmets off. It's no big deal. And like I said, it's so obvious when they find the first body that A, none of them are freaking out, but B, the way it's all diseased looking, that it's obvious that he was infected with something. He doesn't have a helmet on. None of the dead bodies do. So logically you say this is probably airborne. Probably some sort of something got airborne, these people got infected, and they all died. So I would do everything I could to keep the helmets on. And they could even have had where if they want to do the helmet thing and they didn't want to do it with the oxygen, they all keep their helmets on. The guy does the dead body breathes onto the side of his helmet so you can kind of see it on there, but he doesn't notice it. And then another guy, while trying to get a sample, trips and falls, cracks his face shield, so he has to take his helmet off. He'd be the only one that has his helmet off, but he has no option at this point in time. And then he bumps into the guy that has it on the side of his helmet, inhaling it, therefore getting infected. Once again, these are just the ideas I came up with while watching the episode. And they're just basic, simple ideas, but instead it's like they pick the dumbest, lowbrow way of having the story progress without anyone doing anything logical. And once again, these are supposed to be the top of the class. The captain's been on dozens of missions. These doctors that have been, handpicked of all the humans on Earth, they go on this mission and they make the dumbest decisions over and over and over again. It's just mind-numbing. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. I'll be doing episode 3 here probably sometime next week. So if you have any questions or comments, just hit me up in the chat.